The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max, Monday Night Raw, Review.
Welcome, everybody, to the W2M RAW Review. We are doing the November 28th, 2016 edition tonight, and we hope that you enjoyed all of our past and current content when you go to W2Mnet.com. That's right. That's the place where you can go read and enjoy everything under the sun when it comes to the world of wrestling. You can find podcasts and columns and some great reviews on that website. Plus, don't forget W2M Network. That's the place where you go subscribe and get all our podcasts on whatever podcasting device you decide to choose. You know, maybe use iTunes, Stitcher, anything. Just go click on that subscribe button when you go
Google
search.
Play.
Yeah, Google Play, that's a part of it. So there's tons of ways to find us. But we want to give you guys a heads up on some of the great content you can find when you get to search for us. So besides that, it is time for us to jump into some Monday Night Raw. So let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah, let's do so. Oh, well, since you were highlighting content on there, I did want to give a great shout out to our buddy Rich Lacconi over there at the Running Wild podcast. I think they're, besides Harry and Patrick, they're like one of our longest running podcasts we've had as part of the network. They got an interview with Michael Elgin that was actually really good. So, Rich works at PW Ponderings, and he's part of he does all the ROH reviews, which we'll be doing a preview of ROH Final Battle on the W10 Part 1, by the way, for people that may be listening to this. A guy that's been there a long time, Chris GST, he did the interview with Michael Elgin, and they had it on the podcast. So definitely something you guys should go check out, certainly. He talks about Glory Pro and New Japan and everything else. So. But all right, so Raw from this evening or yesterday evening or whenever you're listening to this was sort of, it was weird because they had already announced a Charlotte versus Sasha Banks match from last week, and then about 3 minutes into the match, we have a double countout with Charlotte seemingly almost like planning on purpose that this was how she was going to retain her title and end the feud. But, they did what they couldn't do at Survivor Series for some of these matches. Nick Foley actually comes out, actually figured out how to wipe his ass in the back and got out and said, hey, we can't let this end like this. So he sets up a Falls Count Anywhere. No DQ, no count out match, even though I swear Falls Count Anywhere meant there was no count outs and no DQs. But we have to, state this for the dumb people, I guess. And so we get this main event, which they main event without them. I appreciated this. They didn't have to make a big deal about the fact that they were main eventing. They're just, okay, they've main evented once. That was the history. Now there's main eventing. And they proceed to have about 15 minutes of great match again from these two. I mean, it's like anytime they go out there, it doesn't matter what stipulation they have, they come out and deliver. And they did it again. And guess what, guys? Sasha Banks, 3-time champion, all on Raw. How about that? Once again, Sasha Banks, your Raw Women's Champion on Raw.
Yeah. And also, thinking about this, I mean, this is something that people may have said, well, we're not sure if this is actually going to happen, if she's actually going to get the title again. There's other people who said, yeah, definitely, she's going to be the one getting the title, especially when you're talking about a performer like Charlotte who's, wrestling in their hometown on Monday Night Raw. Usually Vince likes to make you lose. No matter how good you are, he likes to see you lose in your hometown. And it happened again. And guess who else was there? Ric Flair, who Sasha Banks actually dedicated the match to beforehand. And, of course, he wouldn't, embrace her after the match. So, I don't know. I'm kind of curious if they're going to follow up with that later in next week's episode. But what matters in this one is they did have a pretty good match, especially for the fact that they already threw him out there in front of us for, 2 minutes or so, and then the count-out thing. So I'm glad that they actually gave this.
And they pretty much stayed outside almost the whole time, too, which was really nice to see. And... they had Sasha win with the having Charlotte over the railing and then tapping out to the Banks statement, which again kind of capitalized on the stipulation, which was awesome. And kind of one of these things that a lot of the night as we go through felt like we went back 18 years and we're in a different era all of a sudden. So it was kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was. It really was different, and it's fine. Sometimes a little bit of being not the same is good. Being different. And the one thing I do want to point out, and Paul, I think you may have some interesting things to say about this, but this woman's title has kind of flip flopped between Sasha Banks and Charlotte, and in the old days, we're going to go back to that time period, but they held titles longer. It's just the way it was. Now you're getting a chance to see these titles flip hands quite a bit more, and these record books are going to be a lot different, in this current era. Does that matter to you at all? What do you think about the fact that they keep flip-flopping the title?
I've never been a giant fan of title flip-flopping like this, but it does create and give sort of credence to them trying to build both Charlotte and Sasha very quickly in a short period of time. And they do this often with other tag team titles. Used to be infamous for this too, especially with the WWF back in the 90s, where they would flip-flop very often. It's them trying to build, quote-unquote competition between, all the teams in there. So congrats to Sasha, obviously, on winning this. I heard the match was good. I need to go find this and watch it. And I think the division's in the right pair of hands going forward, if they are indeed going forward. But it's just so hard to be convinced that Charlotte and Sasha will ever stop feuding at this point.
Yeah, now I guess Charlotte has to have a rematch, right? So, Roadblock is the end of the line, guys. Maybe finally it ends there.
Yeah, it may stall, but I definitely don't think it's for sure over. And this what's going to make it interesting, DVD in the future when these two actually have, rivalries or whatever they do. They can always talk about this storyline, and it's going to be a good one. Actually, it's one of those that I could actually see myself sitting down and enjoying, getting the chance to see, all the matches again, and also some of the commentary. So.
I just wish they would have cut off the subtitle and just put end of line so they could have a Tron reference in there. They could just have Sark constantly say that instead of having Michael Cole.
I'm sure Disney would have something to say about that.
Yeah, I'm sure they would, but still, it's better than Michael Cole saying it constantly.
Yeah.
But anyway, so. We move along from that, which I'm sure there will be plenty of talk about what, we just discussed here of Charlotte and Sasha and what they're going to do. And, they did involve, her father again. So, last time we saw Rick, he was bawling and being removed from basically kicked out of the building by his own daughter. So, do you think we're going to see Mr. Flair for a while here, or at least until Roadblock, or do you think that was just a one-night thing because they were in Charlotte?
I really hope it's a one-night thing.
Yeah, that's why I'm over here sighing. It's always fun to see the old guys, and it's kind of cool. Legendary guys like Ric Flair are important to the business, but you don't really need him around. Maybe this hopefully was one of those one-off things.
Yeah, I mean, it is nice that they did that since, they acknowledged where they were. And once again, the hometown person. It's also very obvious when you throw out the whole Charlotte couldn't stop talking about it being her hometown. So you already knew right there, if she's not losing, this is crazy. Considering, with all the stuff with Charlotte, or with Sasha previously, how it would have been almost like contradictory to itself if you allowed that. But yeah, at least we know they're going to have one more match. Let's see. I mean, honestly, I don't have a problem with it just because every time they go out there, they deliver. So it's like I can't really. There's not a whole lot to complain about. Not that I want to complain, but just saying that I don't have a problem with it just because, yes, it means Charlotte has also lost the title 3 times now. But like Paul was saying, it does show them as equals, and I think that's kind of what they're trying to do, so that when either one of them is in another feud, you care about that feud because both of them are doing something. Instead of, oh, well, Charlotte's the only one that we should care about.
Exactly. It's not such a terrible thing. I mean, I'm not a big fan of flip-flopping the title either. I get it. I get the strategy. And, honestly, the strategy works, like I said, in a future context when you're showing the storyline and how much it was a battle, how much it mattered, how hot the heat would get sometimes. But, I mean, right now, as you sit in it, you're kind of like, man, I just don't like to see this happen. And it gets kind of monotonous at times. I think, which we didn't really see a whole lot, and we'll talk about, of course, Brock Lesnar and Goldberg, but I think, a lot of people were saying also with that situation, oh, I hated it, which I kind of did. I kind of hated Goldberg beating, Brock Lesnar so quickly, but I listened to Jim Ross's podcast, and I didn't really put it to play, but he was right. They've done that for a long time where builds a new kind of heat when you beat a guy quick. Now they have a reason to come back and say it was a fluke, things like that. What he said made sense. I still don't like it, but it makes sense. Kind of same with this. I'm still not a fan of the flip-flop of the title, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like Sean said, hopefully this helps keep interest in 2 feuds if they do move to that point, because that's the next stage of this whole thing, is that they need to make Bayley interesting. They need to keep Nia. They need to build the rest of the division now behind these 2. So hopefully they can do that successfully. This being Raw, though, I don't have a lot of high hopes.
Right. The only other thing with the women is that apparently Alicia Fox has something going for Cedric Alexander. So even giving him a kiss, where he went out there for his match. So is she going to appear on 205 Live all of a sudden now too?
Oh man,
Venus.
It could be interesting. It really could. I mean, I don't know. I like the intrigue. I also like something. There's a little undertone when you talk about Sasha Banks too. When she was talking to Bayley, she kind of told Bayley, you're not really a part of this. I know you're trying to support me, but this is my time. I'm working on this. You don't really need to be here kind of attitude. And that can maybe mean some things between those two in the future. So interesting things with some women that are not really a part of this show.
Very true. Very true. So we now mosey along again to another thing since Gary gave me the segue a little bit ago, they did have a continuation to the Goldberg and Brock Lesnar thing here with Paul Heyman doing a sit-down where he talks about, yes, they underestimated Goldberg, and yes, they basically really propping up Goldberg, but also kind of understanding that if Brock had taken him seriously, Goldberg wouldn't have stood a chance. That's how he's taking it. Goldberg he broke Brock Lesnar's ribs, he hit him again, and then by that point, Brock was so shell-shocked that, of course, the jackhammer was going to hit and Goldberg was going to win. But Brock is so angry that he wants vengeance in the form of he is also going to enter the Royal Rumble, and now Goldberg and Brock are your first 2 guys in the Rumble. to help sell that 60,000 seat Alamo Dome that you know is going to be a thing now. What do you guys think? I like the promo. Obviously, Paul Heyman is great at these things. This is just another case of him being awesome, and it lays that sort of groundwork for that match that you know is coming. And as an interesting note, they did have a poll on WWE.com, and I think it was a couple of days ago, but it was 51 to 49%. Yes, we want Goldberg and Brock 3, and no, we don't want Goldberg and Brock 3. Very divisive, that whoever voted.
Yeah, and that is definitely very divisive. That's almost like a presidential election or something divisive. But I don't know how many people are in that poll.
Let's not do a recount on that one.
Yeah, for sure. Let's just leave that alone. But here's the thing. I mean, when you talk about Brock Lesnar and Goldberg, usually it doesn't have a lot of good connotations. The first round, first match, what do you want to say about it? Sucked. Second one wasn't even a match. So there's nothing good coming out of it. So I don't blame people for not wanting to see it again.
It was a moment we were all talking about, though.
No, well, they did their job there. They did their job. Now, doesn't mean anybody liked it, but they did their job. Just like the media, that's what they have to do. They tell all the bad, terrible stories, and all the good, feel-good stories are buried underneath the terrible things. So that's what happens here. And at the end of the day, I am intrigued, especially when you get segments like this, where you get a video package with Michael Cole sitting down with Paul Heyman. We all know Paul Heyman's amazing. It's a given. It's not even a question. I just love this attitude, though. This is a Paul Heyman who comes out and he's very serious, and he even drops the F-bomb. That's what it is, but they bleep it out, of course. But he drops this, language that is not, sophisticated. He's very aggressive in his tone, things like that. I just love what he brings out. So this is actually something that, yes, you may have seen 1,000 Paul Heyman promos, but this is something I think you should check out if you haven't seen it, just because I think it actually is something that would interest you, and I think you'd kind of buy in more into that feud just by watching this.
I would watch Paul Heyman commentate two squirrels fighting each other over a pile of nuts. No joke.
Well, one of them had to get the nut at some point, right?
Yeah, I mean, somebody's going to win that, right? But I'm, if they're going to build a rematch between Brock and Goldberg, then this is, I guess, a fine way to do it. I really hope it's probably going to take over the Rumble match, and that's going to be really shitty. But I'll be hopeful. I'll hope that they keep it down to a minimum, and we only have to deal with it for so long. Because, like I said, I am so over this stuff already. So,
imagine if they haven't come in 1 and 2.
Oh God!
I hope they eliminate each other. Like bell rings, they're both out of the ring.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
Let
them brawl back.
You bring up something good, Paul, here, because, that's what a big fear of mine would be, is that they would take up a lot. They would throw out 20 guys between them, and then that's not much of a Rumble.
Oh, that's what that's going to be.
God, don't
it's
say
just
that,
them constantly one-upping each other. How much? Oh, you throw out that guy? Well, I'm going to throw out another guy. It's either going to be they're just going to attack each other the whole time, and then they throw each other out, or they're going to do the whole one-upping game.
Yeah, I could see that. I'll say this. As long as they don't script the Royal Rumble too much with that whole thing, I'll be okay with it. The one thing I'm going to say about this entire feud, at the end of the day, as much of a Goldberg fan as I was, as much as I do like the character, I'm not a big fan of Goldberg.
You don't like him now?
I like the character. I still like the character. I just don't like the guy that's the actual man, Bill Goldberg. The MMA Goldberg, I'll say that, okay? I'm not a big fan of him, but I do like this character. I love it. But at the end of the day, what has to happen for Brock Lesnar to continue, because he's the one continuing, not Bill Goldberg, I've got to have Brock Lesnar standing over a bloody Goldberg. I have to have that. That's got to be the end story here. It'll be 2-1. Goldberg still technically wins, but Brock Lesnar ends it with a bloody Goldberg in front of his wife and child. I said that with Paul. Paul, I mean, you know how emphatic I am about it happening. It didn't happen at Survivor Series. It's got to happen, even if it's WrestleMania 33.
I mean, I'd be totally okay with it happening. I just, it's PG, so unless they do it hard way, I don't have high hopes for it. But I think it'd be awesome. It would be something really cool to make it different.
This year.
I say, or Randy Orton. I mean,
poor Randy Orton. Probably still feeling those effects. But yeah, I mean, it was a good segment. It furthered the feud. They didn't have to have it be this ridiculously long thing. And you tell the story that you want to tell and announce another entrant for the Royal Rumble. So that's what you're trying to do here. And what I was going to get to before is that there were plenty of things here in this show that sort of reminded you of a long lost era that many people like to go back to. And they did that here again with Cesaro and Sheamus. Now, Cesaro and Sheamus are kind of lamenting their tag team didn't do so well, that they had their opportunities and they just were never able to win those titles. And they're both sitting in a bar and they're kind of taking little shots at each other or whatever. And then here comes a fan getting in their face and sort of, talking crap about them. And then all of a sudden we have a Pier 6 bar brawl going on, and it's like the APA all of a sudden came back to life and two Europeans. And Cesaro and Sheamus are just throwing everybody around, and it was awesome. It was like, wow, I didn't think they'd ever do something like this again, being PG, and then, man, this was totally like just not something you'd expect, and it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It's you said APA, which is right on, and then of course an old Western. It's all the same in this situation. I mean, it's kind of funny, it's violent, it's everything accompanying a good old bar fight. So it's worth it just to sit there and enjoy it, relax, but nothing too serious. I think that these two guys did a good job though of sitting down. You get a chance to hear them do their same shtick. I hate you, or you hate me, or whatever. But at the end of the day, they kind of really start making sense because they say, what, Survivor Series, we worked together and look what we did. If we actually stopped this whole being mad at each other and hating each other, we could actually take over the entire tag division. So I like that they put that in there before they had the whole brawl. That to me kind of gives you a key into what could work, and maybe now you finally see the fences being mended.
Yeah, I don't think you do a segment like this or anything like that unless you're building these guys up to be the guys who lift the belts off the New Day. I think it kind of stinks for the rest of the tag division, but at the same time, I'm such a big fan of Cesaro and Sheamus, I don't think I really mind them being the ones to break that reign. So whenever the day does come for these two to wear those straps, you'll have some built-in story of them going from hating each other to being able to work together.
Yeah, I think that's probably what they're going to wind up doing. They're going to keep teasing this whole they're reluctantly working together thing, and then they'll find things that they'll keep finding things they have in common, and somehow all of a sudden actually be able to be a tag team that functions. And you never know, it could actually work for them. They've been trying forever to get people behind Sheamus again. And then if, this could be that final thing that makes Vince go, oh, maybe we finally do have something with Cesaro. You never know. Just the fact that they're willing to try something like this with these guys, I think, says something.
Yeah, exactly. It really does. And, even if it takes a silly segment or just a fun segment to put these guys in that mode, in that place of being a, team, actually, I'm down. I want to see what they can do here. And God, I hope they didn't pay with a credit card at the bar. Hopefully they use cash. That way the cops don't come get them. Because technically they were the ones who threw the first punches.
Too true.
Yeah, it's true.
They got that WWE money, though, Gary. They'll be all right.
Yeah, Vince is like, I got people off murder. I can get you out of jail for life.
God. Whew. Going there. So, speaking of tag teams, they did the tag team title match with the New Day against Gallows and Anderson. Of course, New Day are desperate to make sure that they break this demolition record that they keep mentioning now every time they come out and do a promo. This time, I don't think... oh, no, yes. The thing is, see, this is what's so dumb, okay? The commentary doesn't acknowledge that they're desperate, which would save the fact that they're using heel tactics to actually win these matches when they're supposed to be a face team. But, like, commentary is just acting like, oh, he used the tights, okay, and they won. And it's like, do you not get that for 2 weeks in a row now they've done something they're really not supposed to do so they can make sure they win? Like, why wouldn't you acknowledge that in the storyline? That's kind of dumb. Especially because, aren't you trying to make sure these guys stay faces? I don't know.
This makes a lot of sense for actually not just this match, but for another tag team that is a part of this Raw roster. It's almost like they are trying to reach back into that gray area, right? I mean, they still want New Day to be faces. They still want people to buy their products and love them and all that, but yet these guys are doing things that are illegal and really the heel tactics. They're not, being good winners, if you want to say it that way. So, I don't know. It's a good point, Sean.
I completely agree with you. They're not. If they don't acknowledge it, it's silly. At the same time, we've seen them do stuff like this before, and I don't know. Like, it feels like they could do more than just have them try to cheat and win matches. It should. Maybe you have them attack somebody backstage and try to ensure it, and that way you sort of show in a different way, if you're not going to have it acknowledged on commentary, that they're trying to make the record.
I just wonder if Gary is right, if they are feeling like, well, if we can't make stars, if we can't make people really like faces or really like heels or really hate the heels or whatever, maybe we just give everybody the shades of gray thing that they had in the Attitude Era and that'll work or something. I don't know. Maybe it's a desperate ploy, but I don't know, because it's like, isn't your problem already that you don't know who's a face and who's a heel sometimes, or that you don't have a clear definition for who's doing things and you want to make it even more gray? Isn't that a problem?
Mm-hmm. Did they ever have a segment where they actually turned face? Because I think the crowd just sort of turned them. I don't think they ever actually had a segment where they had this big defining moment of, hey, we're faces now.
Well, the fact that they've been so dominant, too. I mean, they technically, for a little while there, were just dominant over teams. They didn't need to cheat.
Right.
But now they're getting back to that point. And maybe this just spells the end of the days when it comes to their title run. No Baron Corbin talk, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. No need to bring Baron Corbin in this conversation. He's all right doing things on the other show. But yeah, I mean, this is interesting that they are doing that with New Day. Let's see how far they get, but they do keep mentioning the number of days and everything, and people actually boo them for some reason when they mention it too. So that's
well, they should though, because that's a record I personally feel should have been left alone.
I know, but not all. I mean, think about like how many people really know who. Now, I think where they were, because that's an old wrestling town, they're going to know. But think about how many of those kids, how many of these casual fans, how many of these younger fans don't even know who the hell Demolition are. Like, are they really going to care?
That's
no.
depressing.
But, like, the fact that they've been booed almost every time they mention it, I think is just interesting. I don't know that if it's so much Demolition as much as it is that they might not like the fact that they're shoving it down your throat that they're about to break this record. I don't,
Mm-hmm. My biggest thing is I'm very big on nostalgia. I love history. I love NFL history because I'm a big football fan. I love American history sometimes. Sometimes I hate it. Other history. And it's just one of those things where if you take away the history, then you have nothing to point back to and say, kids, this is why this is important. And demolition, yeah, sure. May not be important to people now, but at least you can get them maybe to watch the network. So you'd like the New Day? Well, guess what? There was a team that held the titles longer than those guys. In the future, you're not going to be able to say that. And what's the point in pointing them over there? They're like, well, New Day's better. So, I don't know. It's just kind of the way I feel. I think this is a good way to get people to watch the network compared to saying, oh, well, we beat Demolition.
Yeah, and it's a way to do it without saying, hey, WWE Network $9.99, go get it. How stupid are you for not having the network? Like, just, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Who are Demolition? Okay, yeah, I can go watch them on the network. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, John Cena tying Ric Flair. You can be on the network, have nothing but Flair videos and a whole deal. So, I don't know. Yeah, it's something.
That wouldn't be bad videos to watch. So, we have another, speaking of again, another one of these, we're going back in time a little bit, just because, last week, they had that whole thing with Enzo being naked out there for the public, and he showed Lana his real the realest guy in the room, in all his glory, and Rusev of course didn't like that, so they after Enzo and Cass talked about what Lana and Rusev ate for Thanksgiving. Over and over, which the crowd did get into, but I was like, if Rusev is Russian, is he really eating that for Thanksgiving? Eventually it gets into the point where Rusev is just pissed because Enzo is basically talking about how he has a bigger dick than Rusev and that he's more man than Rusev, and well, the whole time I'm sitting here thinking, God, I just want Enzo to get kicked in the dick. And what does Rusev do? Kicks him in the dick. Like, why am I supposed to hate Rusev right now? Like,
it's ridiculous. This is my problem.
Like, I love Rusev right now. He just kicked Enzo in the balls. Like.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's the thing, and this is what's kind of funny about it, because this is exactly what I was talking about without saying it. This is another situation where the guy that's supposed to be the babyface, the hero, is being a huge jerk and doing something that really, honestly, you would be upset with if someone did it to you. You don't know how mad I would be if someone came up to me and said, "Ha, your wife saw me in my boxers the other day, so it's proof now that that I'm bigger." That would tick me off. First of all, you don't talk about my wife like that. Second of all, that's disrespecting me. And so I think that's just the way that this crowd may look at it. But on the other hand, they look at Enzo as being funny and hilarious. So maybe they're getting their thing out of it. But me personally, maybe I'm too old. I am married, and I kind of go from it from that point of view. Maybe if I'm 16, not married, and this is hilarious, look at him joking on that guy's son, But at the end of the day, it's kind of weird. They're kind of playing Shades of Grey again. I don't know, Paul. This kind of amazes me that they're doing this with Enzo.
I'm not overly shocked that they're doing it, to be honest. I mean, Enzo, I think, has the ability to go this way. I think this is what makes him so much better as being a face or a heel, where I think Big Cass's appeal mostly is a babyface. I think he's a great babyface. I don't know how great of a heel he would be. But, I mean, at the end of the day, they've done this a lot with Rusev, too, where he's been in feuds where he's being portrayed as like his feud with Reigns. He should have been the good guy. Reigns was an ass to him the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Never treated that way. What are you going to do?
Yeah, and then Lana keeps announcing him as the real American hero or whatever.
Oh, man. She's I don't know. Sometimes she knows where she's at times. But
seriously, the boos are not as loud as they have been. I think because of of this thing with what they're doing with him. Where every feud he's been in, it's like, why am I supposed to hate Rusev right now? Like, I'm actually rooting for Rusev. I want you to kick his ass. You know, just that's amazing that you can get to that point with him. I think.
Yeah, you're right, and I find it kind of interesting that they're treating him this way. It may work in the future for him for good reason, but right now I'm like, man, you're just punking this guy out.
Certainly, I mean, being punked out, Titus O'Neil has to get in a fight with Mark Henry backstage about Mark Henry taking his movie part, because that's all Titus does now.
Poor Titus.
He just gets punked out.
Yeah, this is so good. Titus O'Neil in a feud that no one cares about, or it's not important.
When was the last time he was in a feud that somebody cared about?
But that's my point, though. There's never been a feud I think anybody really cared about. So once again, here we are.
I mean, primetime players. I mean, that's probably the last time people cared.
That's a long time ago.
It is a long time ago.
So
Yeah.
they did. So the other big storyline that they kind of set up here is that Kevin Owens. They had set up that Kevin Owens was having a non-title match with Roman Reigns. Because if Roman Reigns won, he would get the Universal title match at Roadblock, end of the line. That's stupid that I gotta say that. You can't have 2 roadblocks in 1 year, so we got to give it a stupid subtitle. Are people gonna really go around going, WWE Roadblock, end of the line is happening, guys. We gotta sell this. Who talks like that? Seriously.
I know.
Gary, you gonna go around going, guys, it's Roadblock, end of the line, damn it.
I know, right? Harry might do it, but not me. I'm just not.
Like Roadblock is already enough of a dumb name. Let's just give it the subtitle. Anyway, we have a highlight reel with Kevin Owens and Jericho, of course, and Roman Reigns makes fun of Owens for needing Chris Jericho to win and do stuff or whatever, and so basically that's what happens. Reigns kind of goads him into this match so that Kevin Owens can prove that he can win without Chris Jericho. And so then Jericho and Owens kind of have words backstage, and then Mick Foley says that we are going to do Owens and Reigns and that Jericho is not going to get involved. And they do have the match, aside from Jericho kind of leaving it in the air whether he and Kevin Owens are done. But then Seth Rollins gets in Jericho's face, and they brawl out the backstage, and we get a pedigree on top of the card to Jericho. God, where have we seen this before? And then we had the match, which I thought it was a good match. I mean, it wasn't anything like totally out of this world or whatever. The crowd was enjoying it and going for Owens. And it takes 2 spears to take him out, but Roman Reigns wins without Jericho getting involved.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the writing on the wall with this. I mean, it's just the way it had to go. I wasn't thrilled about it, but I understand, this is just another way to get Roman Reigns, into that main picture and make it
Roman Reigns show, Gary. It's not Raw.
Yeah, pretty much. I wish it really was the Kevin Owens show. We all know it's not true. It is the Roman Reigns show. What I think that was the most interesting in this was the fact that they finally did kind of, finish this whole best friend gimmick with Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho. So, I mean, sadly, we're moving past that, and that's okay, I guess. I mean, we've had it for a while, but you loved it. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun as they went on. But, at the end of the day, we figured it was going to get to this point, and we're finally here.
At least you did have the best part was Owens after the match, where He's upset because his best friend Jericho got attacked and that he wasn't there for him, and he's worried about Jericho. And he lost because he was worried about Jericho. Just, man.
Oh, man. Yeah. That's a good way of doing it, though. You know, Kevin Owens, once again.
Kevin Owens is so good, man. He is so good.
Yes. You know, even though he stumbled in that promo, which is funny, as Kevin Owens, you can get over it. I mean, he did stumble in his promo.
But
he couldn't say
saved
Universal
himself, where
Championship.
he's like, well, never English was not my first language.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's right. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll get Owens and Jericho out of this at some point. Hopefully, Roman Reigns is just a little one-off to keep both guys busy. Because I'm sure you got to do that at some point now, I feel like. And maybe that's, that might be pretty cool to do at WrestleMania or something like that.
Yeah, it could be, especially if you don't want Kevin Owens to be the guy holding the title going to WrestleMania, or even if you do. But I have a feeling Roman Reigns is going to go into that WrestleMania as our Universal Champion.
Kill me now. Kill me.
You can't put that out there, Gary. They're listening. They hear what you're saying. Don't let them make you be right.
Let's not do another WrestleMania with Roman Reigns in the main event. Ugh.
I know. I'm just saying, hey, here's the positive thing. If I'm saying it's going to happen, Vince is going to go like, I got to trick him. I'm not going to make that happen.
There's not enough network volume to lower the amount of boos he is going to get.
Oof. Oh, it's going to be terrible.
Yeah, pretty terrible. Braun squashed the guy, or Braun squashed Truth, and then Zayn came out to keep him from beating up Goldust. Mick Foley came out to make sure that Sami Zayn didn't get hurt, and then Mick Foley and Sami Zayn also get into a big screaming match of a promo. And because, Mick Foley says, basically, Sami Zayn, I need to save you from yourself. And Sami Zayn's like, no, I don't need any saving here. Because if, for one, you're a big hypocrite because you're one of those guys that did things that people didn't expect you to do. And I like this because Sami Zayn got to show some passion and that he really did what he had to do. Just, it's a little bit weird because, Sami Zayn, yes, he did interrupt a match or whatever, but we see guys do things that they aren't supposed to do, and they still get to continue, but Sami Zayn doesn't. I don't know. I do like this, though. I think this is interesting with him and Foley to kind of be this buffer between them and Braun.
Yeah. I do too. I like this whole dynamic because we already get a little bit of it on SmackDown with Daniel Bryan and The Miz for different reasons for what they do. And now you got Sami Zayn standing up to the GM who has been battling his own internal fights because of, he's pretty much under Stephanie McMahon's thumb. But on the other hand, he's doing what he thinks is right, even though the talent may not. And that's what you're getting here. And Sami Zayn, believes in himself where Mick Foley doesn't believe in him. So now you're going to get to the point where now it's all about Sami Zayn. You're getting a chance to see emotion out of Sami Zayn that really you haven't seen a lot of. Yeah, him and Kevin Owens kind of went at it. You got those emotions, but I mean, this is different. And this is a guy that you really don't know if Sami Zayn can beat. I mean, Braun Strowman's killed everybody he's got in the ring with. So this is the perfect, David and Goliath situation, and you got a guy in the middle, which is Mick Foley. I think, honestly, it's something that kind of works. I really don't have any issues with it, and I love that screaming match. I think it gives this even more heat. Let's be honest, Braun Strowman is not going to build this feud. He's not. He can't right now. We know if he gets on the mic, he's not going to build it. This is going to be Mick Foley and Sami Zayn building it, and then you're going to have the match.
Oh yeah, Braun's great on the mic. What are you talking about? I love his one-liners.
Yeah, he's one-liners, but he's not going to get out there and cut a long promo, and
Oh yeah,
you don't
no,
expect
definitely.
him to. And I'm glad that, but yes, his one-liners are fine. I do think that Braun Strowman, for the short time span that he's been involved in wrestling, he's great.
So this, I mean, it feels like you said already, like the Miz and Daniel Bryan's interaction. The only thing that made those so great, though, is because they already had the history. Where this they worked some history into, but it still feels like it's about Foley and not so much about Sammy. Yeah, Sammy walks out on him and he gets called a hypocrite and says, how dare you, of all people, say that I can't get it done when you had people tell you you couldn't get it done forever. And I really like this idea, but I really just hope it ends with Sammy on SmackDown. I really do.
We keep having this pipe dream. I don't know that it's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Mick Foley says Stephanie wanted to fire you, and I thought to myself, that would have been the best thing ever. Just let her do it.
Right? You get him on SmackDown.
Yes, Daniel Bryan would be at his front door. So sign here.
So, sign here right now. Let's see if you can bring Cesaro with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that sort of covers everything that was on Raw, if I'm not mistaken. So
I think you're right.
We just got to do a rating.
Rating this show was kind of interesting because, obviously it brought a lot of talking points out for us tonight, and that means it's not a bad Raw for me. I think that there were lots of involved stories. The cruiserweight stuff, to me, which we really didn't talk about the cruiserweights.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's what I forgot. Okay, so
Go ahead.
You had Tony Nese beat Cedric Alexander after another guy that loses in his hometown. And then you had Rich Swann beat Noam Dar. You had Brian Kendrick on commentary. Brian Kendrick did freaking go off on Byron Saxton, though, which I liked. He got really heated, and that actually showed some passion there. And then Rich Swann actually got to get on the microphone and talk and say that, hey, I beat you twice. When I beat you again at 205 Live, I'm going to be Cruiserweight Champion. And so that kind of sets up your 205 Live for next week, or for Tuesday.
Yeah, in which all of this is fine. I mean, I don't think it's terribly amazing, but it is content that I think is relevant when it comes to Raw because it's building storylines to an extent, and you get a chance to see that this cruiserweight division isn't all about flippies and just being small guys who are amazing.
The stuff with Cedric and Tony Nese is basically the same thing they've been doing with the cruiserweights. That's nothing new.
Yeah, you're right, but it's at least they're still doing something like that. It's not, they had a good match, okay, move on. That there was extracurricular kind of situation. And I think, with the whole Brian Kendrick thing, it's always even more interesting. And so adding that into the rating for the show, I mean, I really think that it was a show that I sat there and I kind of enjoyed. They did some things that kind of progressed and got us towards Roadblock. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 7. I don't think it was bad. I really was entertained for most of this show.
That's what I was going to go with, too. I think it was a fun... It was a fun night. Like, you had a lot of stuff that kind of takes you back to the Attitude Era. It was some just fun stuff. I don't know that it works on a weekly basis, but it was different, and so you enjoyed it, and that's kind of what I got out of this show. And then you had the great main event, which that never hurts when you have some very good wrestling on the show, and so you have storylines to continue setting up Roadblock as well. So all in all, a good evening of Raw for once.
Yeah, obviously I haven't watched the show yet or anything, but from what I'm reading, what it sounds like, you have a good show on your hands. There's some great wrestling in that third hour, which is usually where that show drags, so that really helps. And it seems like this entire show was built around setting up the big match and the big title change at the end, which is fine. And you have all the big stuff happening around the Universal title. So a busy Raw, and maybe something that works best when you're trying to fill 3 hours.
Exactly, and Monday Night Football still is a battle, and I understand, and the NFL ratings have actually kind of gone up a little bit, and so doing a show like this, it definitely helps WWE. I think that they need to continue this and not slow down on the third hour, or do just what Paul said, and that's really ramp it up in the third hour, make people want to stick around when it's the last half of the fourth quarter. You want to definitely keep people interested. So, but there you go. This is, of course, a show that, is a part of the W2M network. Just wanted to let everybody know that's also the place you go subscribe for your podcast needs. Not only do you get the Raw review for W2M, but you're also going to get the SmackDown Live Raw review as well. So if you go subscribe, you don't have to worry about searching for it. It'll be in your dock when you want it. Plus, don't forget also, we do our regular Wrestling to the Max episodes, part 1 and part 2 during the week. We are actually about to technically record part 1 of this week's. And, of course, you'll get the next one, part 2, on Thursday night live, Friday on the download.
Well,
also,
don't forget that you get a 205 Live review.
That's right. That's debuting, so we're going to get that as well. So we're going to have lots of great content. And, of course, if you want to go find all our written content along with the podcast, go to w2mnet.com. That's an awesome website. You need to go check it out. Trust me, go do it. Besides that, guys, we are out of here, and we will see you guys down the line. Until then, if you're not living life to the max.
Not living life at all.
You know it.
Peace.
Later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.